So, hey, Jeremy, how are you doing?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
Good, good. Um, just wanted to touch base with you here. We recorded some conversations a few months back, and for those of you that missed that conversation, let me start by introducing ourselves here. In case you're watching this for the first time, my name is Mike Epsky. I'm a supplier development executive at Sourcewell, which means I work with contract holders like Jeremy here, who have been vetted through the Sourcewell procurement process. They've been awarded and have signed a contract which allows Sourcewell member agencies, our customers, to use those contracts to satisfy their procurement compliance rules, satisfy that public bid requirement that goes along with being a public agency and having those procurement rules. And Jeremy, we're not so much talking today about what we can buy on your contract, although that is part of the conversation, but really, I've been, having conversations with you here on and off because, as an RFP bondee and awarded contract holder, we look to you guys as trusted experts in this field. You're heavily involved in that electric vehicle space. As a reminder to folks, these guys are awarded on our heavy duty uh, electric vehicles. So that's in Jeremy's case, everything from class 3 to class 8. Did I say that right? Yeah, class 3 to class 8. So if you've got those needs as a city to get compliant, have electric vehicles, non-emissions vehicles is probably the better way to say it. These guys are an actual option on contract today, along with a lot of other awarded supplies in that chassis with related accessories and supplies. But with that said, Jeremy, remind everybody kind of what we were talking about along those requirements, right? What agencies were, what we were talking about last time, I guess.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. I think picking up where we left off our last conversation, a lot's changed. New administration, there were rules set in place that have changed pretty drastically and quickly. Last time we spoke, the main thing was the Inflation Reduction Act had a 10-year plan where public agencies were given basically up to $40,000 credit time they purchased a zero emissions vehicle. That 10-year plan has now been axed and basically is expiring September 30th. What that means is if you want to get that $40,000 credit on the federal side, you would have to physically have a PO in prior to September 30th to allow a little extension time to deliver that vehicle and still take advantage of that credit. After September 30th, if you don't put an order in and a PO in, then that portion's gone across the United States. So
Okay.
what we really switched into more is we're finding certain states are coming out individually with incentive programs. So we're kind of making a shift from relying on the federal government for help to pay for zero emissions vehicles to now going back to the states and seeing what your state offers, if anything, to help deploy zero emissions vehicles.
Okay.
Currently, I would say New York, New Jersey, Washington, and definitely California uh, are are where money is being invested for public agencies to bring in heavy duty zero emissions vehicles.
Okay. And so then what have you guys done on that side when it comes to working around those individual states? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, most of the action has been in California because California is still a little more unique in that we have a regulatory requirement. So if you're a public agency in the state of California, you
Hmm.
have to start bringing zero emissions vehicles in your fleet under the ACF guidelines. ACF is still alive and well. The state does have the right to enforce upon itself. So cities, school districts, counties in California do have a guideline to follow. And what that means is this is their first big year of compliance where they take one of two pathways. It's either they have 10% of their fleet zero emissions by the end of this year, or 50% of all their new purchases are going to be zero emissions. So meaning if they buy
Okay.
4 trucks this year, 2 will be ICE, 2 will be ZEV.
Okay. Interesting. And so then you're saying that there's now some replacement funding that you're seeing that's being put in place.
It's actually pretty quickly. So Tuesday, right around the corner here, September 9th. HVIP is going to be releasing about $200 million of funding towards new vehicles, zero emissions vehicles. And the exciting thing about this wave of funding is before there was a lot of uh, it was a lot of talk that it wasn't going to allow for public agencies to use the money, but they have confirmed public agencies can utilize those funds and they can count towards compliance when using that funding for new vehicles. So
Oh,
again, that's
great.
September Tuesday that opens up. It is a competitive program. It is first come, first serve. We never know how long that funding will be there for. But we are getting action right now from a lot of cities that we're quoting out to Sourcewell contract to help get the funding to put these trucks in their fleets. And we'll be writing grants for a number of them starting on Tuesday.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So good news basically all around. Kind of bad news, good news. Bad news, funding got canceled. Good news, replacement funding on its way. Bad news, we better move fast if we want to get our hands on any of that. But good news again, you guys can help with that process, and the Sourcewell contracts in place should make things easy and a lot faster than having to start this from, a city running its own solicitation for that and trying to respond to that in time. There's just no possible way, right? I don't know how you could possibly get the funding approved and move at the pace you need to move to really meet these rules by, remind me, the end of this year calendar.
End of this year, yeah. So Sourcewell does allow us to move much quicker to facilitate for the city's requests. And in a lot of cases, we having cities just get us a letter of intent to secure the vouchers and the funding. And then once we have that, they go in front of their council meetings to get everything approved. And if it gets approved, we moved on. If not, we can kill the request. But at least lock in the funding so it doesn't disappear. And then you're stuck paying out of your pocket without the funding before December 31st.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so are there similar rules outside of California that are gonna be some mandates for agencies?
Yeah, I would say historically, once California Air Resource Board runs a program, you'll see other states try to follow that program about 4 or 5 years after. I
Gotcha,
do know, for example, Oregon and Washington are currently talking about an alliance with CARB to piggyback what the regulations are here.
gotcha.
Um, so geographically, it's going to be state to state where you're located. Not to say if you're in a state that has no incentives, these vehicles still make sense with just cost of ownership when you bring them into a fleet. It's always 20% operating cost, on an EV versus a combustible.
Hmm.
Just what you pay for power versus fuel or
Mhm,
diesel.
mhm.
So, and then without the added maintenance of oil changes and tranny fluid and far less parts, far less costs. No turbochargers, no EGR, charge air coolers, all the stuff that you DPFs, DEF systems that we're accustomed to now maintaining on a diesel. That's all eliminated. So even if you're in a state that doesn't have incentives, I still think they make sense to bring a zero emissions vehicle in, especially if
Absolutely.
you have a duty cycle where the truck is running less than 100 or 150 miles in one day.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm not discouraging someone in a state that has no incentives to not try to look into these vehicles. But I will say for California, especially because you are under a requirement and this is your first big year of compliance, um, I would definitely take advantage of the funds that are there. So you're not paying 100% out of pocket. And you also don't want to fall out of compliance because once you fall out of compliance, you can no longer use funding moving forward. You have to pay to get your fleet back into compliance before funding is available to you again.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you don't wanna get locked out of that.
Exactly. And then if
Yeah,
you're states
absolutely.
like Washington, Oregon, even though you don't have a requirement yet, requirements are coming soon. So since there's funding in those states, why not take advantage of that and start bringing some of these vehicles in to get your feet wet, kind of get a feel for it. Start to train your operators on driving them and just how they charge and operate and maintain.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. I just think that, when it comes to a message like this where, it's gonna cost agencies some real pain and in dollars and time to get this kind of corrected if they're not in compliance. There's some options here to make it even faster, make it even easier, and answer some of those questions. If you're looking for a resource, I hope people know they can look to Sourcewell not just for that compliance, but also pick our brains a little bit. We've got a good bunch of friends out there in the world that are living and breathing this stuff every day. So, Jeremy, I appreciate that. As a new contract holder, I'd love to just hear from you now. How is it going so far? What's been the response? Are you
Yeah,
um
so it's been a pretty fun adventure, selling zero emissions vehicles is different than what we're traditionally used to. So there
mhm,
is a lot more education with the product, but I do enjoy it. Like whenever I deliver a vehicle, I just delivered one the other day to a, local school district, and it's actually one of my favorite parts of this is actually sitting down with the operators, showing them how to drive it, how it runs, how it operates, um, and then letting them experience it in a real, in life situation.
mhm,
Um, so right now we have quite a bit of action going on. A lot of public agencies are putting orders in for this wave of grant funds. They do want to meet their compliance. They need to
mhm.
get their orders in by December 31st. I think their budgets were kind of established in July, and this funding's opening right now. Perfect timing. So as far as California goes, we're getting a lot of action in California. We do get calls from airports in different cities outside of California, and a lot of those are just me answering a lot of questions right now, so they can start planning for next year, which is
Sure.
fine. We're kind of setting the seed. They're putting their budgets in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It kind of starts with that awareness, understanding, and ultimately embracement. So,
yeah. So I'm
yeah.
happy to answer any questions. It's not like I'm trying to sell a vehicle right now. If you guys just want questions answered, so you have understanding, Um, I've figured out some. I have a customer right now. We were able to give him a demo out in North Carolina, from a local dealer there, just so they could try to experience themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely would encourage you to call or email with any questions, whether you're ready to purchase now or next year or 2 years from now.
That's fantastic. And yeah, to all the Sourcewell agencies out there, we just want to bring this message to your awareness and, happy to have this conversation with you, Jeremy, and make sure they know that, you're out there and able to help them with their challenges. And Sourcewell is here to help you with all their challenges. When it's beyond just electric fleets, we've got over 700 contracts available for all their compliance needs and a host of experts that are alongside each of those. So, uh, really, thanks for your time today, and happy to talk with you.
Yeah. Hey, one more last point, Mike. I just thought of too. I
Yeah.
think last time we talked, a lot of these vehicles were a little more made to order. They had a lot of long build dates.
Okay.
We are seeing more cab and chassis on the floor that we can send straight to bodybuilders to get in the hands of customers pretty quickly. So if you're one of those customers who's like, hey, I need to get a landscape truck or a service body or something in my fleet pretty quick, we can usually pull that off in a few weeks.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, nothing like the months long deadlines or lead times we were getting used to.
Correct. Yeah, the build dates are definitely coming back into our favor.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Thank you, Mike. And quickly.
Thanks, Jeremy.